Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming to this session of the Jim Bregman Invites You To series. I'm Rob Riley, and I will introduce the host, Sensei Jim Bregman. Sensei Bregman is a 10th Dan, a founder of the United States Judo Association, past president, has remained very active in the years since. He is the USA's first Olympic judo medalist, a bronze in Tokyo in '64, and a bronze medal the following year in the World Championships. So without any further ado, let me introduce Sensei Bregman. Sensei Bregman.
Thank you, Rob, very much. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce Lisa Capriotti and Rob Gouthro to the audience. They are very well known in the judo community. Lisa is a Yodan in judo and has been practicing for more than 20 years. During her career in judo, she has won the 2016 World Veterans Championships, which is quite an accomplishment. Rob Gouthro has practiced judo for more than 15 years and is a Sanda. He is a kata chair for Shifu Judo Yudanchikai and serves on the National Kata Committee for the United States Judo Association. Together, the two have competed in IJF Kata World Championships with a highest placing of 6. They have won the Pan American Kata Championships multiple times for Nage no Kata, Kodokan Goshin Jitsu, Kimi no Kata, and won the USA Judo Senior National Championships multiple times in every kata completed. Outside of competition, Lisa and Rob are both nationally certified referees, certified national level kata judges, certified national level coaches. In 2016, they did a rather amazing thing. They founded a 501c3 corporation. That's a registered nonprofit called the American Judo Foundation, which hosts several tournaments each year for both judo and jiu-jitsu competitions, including the South Carolina State Championships, which is now a USA Judo Level E point event and a national referees evaluation site. As entrepreneurs, they have founded and run 2 successful for-profit martial arts schools in Charleston Self-Defense Academy and the Aspire Athletics Center. It's going to be a very interesting discussion because today they will be talking about what it means to be a complete judoka and why this is necessary if judo is going to thrive in the United States. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Rob and Lisa. And I would like to understand, what is being a complete judoka mean and why should we aspire to it?
Oh, my turn. All right. So hi, everybody. Dr. Capriotti. Once several years ago, somebody who I very much respect and admire said to me, Lisa, when are you going to choose? When are you going to choose between being a tournament director, a referee, a kata player? You have to pick. You have to choose. And I said, I don't really understand your question. So many people in my life, so many people that I've aspired to emulate have done judo in every medium that they could. And to me, that was the best way to exponentially grow my talent. And at the time, I was really thinking about me because that's what we do. But in the back of my mind, I kept thinking about, do I grow judo more effectively and more efficiently by choosing, Or do I do it by the maybe slower road of encompassing a lot of areas of judo? So we hear this a lot. Jigoro Kano said that there were 3 pillars of judo: shiai, randori, kata. And we think about judo today and how many roles people have. Judo is much more sophisticated than it was back then. Now we have administrative positions. We have entrepreneurs. We have tournament organizers. Dr. Kano was really the first tournament organizer, right? He organized events to show off judo, to prove to the Tokyo police force that judo was an effective strategy for crowd control and for police defense without having to hurt people, right? So there's a lot of these elements of judo, and all of them are really important if you want to push our concept judo forward into the greater community. I'm going to let Rob jump in there.
Yeah. For me, the question of being a judoka comes back to the question for any person: why do you do judo? Why are we all involved in this really crazy, all-encompassing, strange activity that is judo, right? We go on, dress up in pajamas on Friday nights, and we get really close to partners, and we try to choke each other out and throw each other under the mats. That's not normal activity for most human beings, right? And so what are we trying to accomplish out of this activity? And I come back to what Professor Kano intended as a purpose of judo, which was a system of moral and ethical education for the youth, but not just the youth, for any people who are partaking in it, to be active and successful citizens in a society. And that's really the core reason that judo exists. Now, if you come back to the question of why do I need to do more than just be a competitor and come in and I get on the mat and I do my 45 minutes of practice and I hang up my gi and I go home. Can you get a benefit out of judo just by doing that? Of course, certainly you can. But if you believe that you're going to get something out of judo more than just a good sweat and some cardio, you want to look at the bigger picture. And in order to do that, judo provides some opportunities. Okay, leadership. Okay, if you're not helping to teach on the mat, when you've got some experience under your belt, you're missing out on that opportunity. If you're not giving back when you've learned, you're not really participating fully in the concept of mutual benefit and welfare. If you are not refereeing, then you are missing out on an entire aspect of judo, which is the intellectual side of understanding how the rule set is working with the larger corpus of principles that exist in judo, to see how judo is manifesting in its Olympic expression, which is just one expression of judo. Hard to understand that if you've never refereed. So there are so many different facets to this. And the more facets that you engage with, the more opportunities that you're giving yourself to grow and to have skills and experiences that will carry over from judo to your larger life. So that's one reason.
Okay, that's very interesting. Why is it important for referees to actually be practicing coaches? And what is necessary to become an effective referee? What do you bring to the table to really be able to judge a judo contest with its current rules, which are extensive?
That's a great question. Okay, so referees in every sport kind of get a bad rap, right? They're the rules. They're the rule mongers, and they dictate what's fair and what's not fair. But they're also blind, so that doesn't really help, right? But from the referee's perspective, right? Referees feel like they are enabling safety, fair play within the bounds of the rules that encourages positive judo. in the referee community, this concept of positive versus negative judo is constantly brought up. And that's a hard thing for somebody to really contemplate if they're just thinking about, my job is to prevent getting thrown, but also throw this other guy, right? And so by refereeing, you start to realize what leads you to ippon, what leads you to positive judo. And without refereeing, sometimes you get lucky and sometimes you don't. But it's a lot straighter of a path when we think about, okay, well, what elements within the competition add to your success in judo? We're going to call those positive judo. And what elements in the competition kind of make it boring, hold each other off, kind of are slow? Those things are negative judo. And so a really good example of this is somebody who has really defensive posture, and the guy who's defending and trying to run away and his back is bent over and his hands are down and his arms are almost extended. This guy, we feel bad for him as a referee, because this guy could be standing up straight and throwing the other guy. But instead, he is detracting from his own judo. But what do we do as a referee? We can't tell him, hey, stand up straight. That's his coach's job. But what we can do is we can give him a warning. We can tell him with a shido, if you stand up straight right now, your chances of winning are exponentially better. Please do that. But how do I do that effectively as a referee if I'm not also coaching? If I'm not also thinking of these players as from the perspective of a coach? Or if I'm not also coaching my own players periodically. And so refereeing, sometimes we get some referees that are very hard set on the black and white rule, may not necessarily understand the intent of the rule, which is a very Japanese concept. You can go to jail for intending to murder somebody, right? And under Japanese legal system, you have to actually do the crime to do the time in the United States. So the Japanese system is a little bit different. And in judo, as a referee, your job is to judge intent and then give scores or no score or advice, a shido, based on what you believe the intent to be. And in order to do that effectively, you definitely need to sit on the other side of the mat, both sides of the mat. You need to be the player. You need to be the coach.
Yeah. And I think that's all very true. And Lisa's focusing on like your technical ability to perform efficiently in your role. So as a coach or a player, you're going to be technically more proficient, more able to do that function if you've sat on the other side and looked at it from the referee perspective, and vice versa. I think there's two other huge reasons why all judoka who reach a certain level should participate in all these different roles at some level. One of them, of course, is just empathy. For us to be able to understand the perspective and the responsibility that is incumbent on the person on the other side. So for the coach to understand exactly what it's like to be the center referee and to understand the complexity of the task and the fact that there is no malice in the referee's heart when he's making a bad call, because in fact, there's just an overwhelming number of multitasking things that are occurring at that viewpoint. And for the referee, likewise, to understand that when that coach blows their cool, that coach is looking at hundreds of hours they've invested in the emotional development of this player and their technical development. And this bad call is really hurting them very personally because they've watched that player grow. And I think when you have that empathy, it makes you more effective and more able to communicate. Now, of course, another huge reason is that in the United States, we have a rather small community. We don't have a huge support infrastructure. And in many towns and in many cities, there might not be enough referees to hold a tournament, without asking people to travel hundreds of miles and put up hotel rooms and do these various things. And that limits the amount of competition that our players can experience. Because even if you can get some referees who are going to travel out to your city this weekend, the chances are they're also traveling to another city the next weekend and another city the weekend after that. And so for you to have a hometown competition in your local area more than a couple times a year is asking a lot of those particular people. And so the coaches in that area need to be able to step up and to officiate local tournaments and to officiate in-houses and to officiate the regionals, so that they're not beholden to the travel schedules of the traveling referee corps, which is a wonderful group of people, but they're stretched so thin.
We just don't have enough certified referees to meet the demand.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And
Well,
if you,
why do you feel it's important for referees to be very active on the mat?
yes, this is vital. So interpreting a judo match from the outside, just watching it, makes it can be very difficult to have the intuition to see what's coming up next. You have to be able to see forward when you're a referee, because otherwise you're giving mate right when the throw happens, or you're calling mate because he stepped out of bounds, but he ran right back in, or you're calling mate in the choke setup. This happens all the time, and it frustrates coaches to no end because they see the potential and the referee may or may not have missed, may or may not have seen it. Now, sometimes maybe there's a very good reason. There's a safety issue, skis across the chin, something like that. But if coaches don't have the trust in the referee, then they're going to assume the worst because they not necessarily see what the referee sees. Referee is right there. Referee may be on the right side. So it's really important that the referee demonstrates by their body language that they can sort of foretell in some ways what's going to happen in the match.
Yeah, I think that's all really, a good reason. Like, for example, I recently suffered a dislocated shoulder, which was an unfortunate training accident, but I think it might be, inherent in the nature of our sport to occasionally suffer a minor injury. But as a result of that, I was not actively on the mat training and doing hard randori in the month and a half to 2 months leading up to the senior nationals. And I refereed at that event. And I can tell you from my personal experience, the degree of like, the sharpness I had on the mat as a referee, my sense of timing, my ability to anticipate the players was not the same as it was when I'm usually out there doing hard randori a couple times a week in my club. And then I get on and you can feel the judo happening because you've been doing the judo with your body, and you can experience it that way. So I can certify to that very, very, surely from personal experience. I think another reason it's really important is just, again, it comes back to, this time I'm bringing up the idea of technical competency, right? We had a great referee clinic here. I'm losing track of time.
April of last year.
And Brad Boland got on the mat. He's a national level competitor, and he did some randori rounds. And his goal was, as a competitor, to sneak in as many illegal grips and dirty tricks as he could. And I can tell you, when you've been on the mat with Brad and had him do those to you, you kind of know that they're coming and you can see them. And when you have not been on a mat for a while and experiencing those techniques and seeing them come up, then it's a lot harder to catch them with your eyes, again, if you haven't experienced them with your body. And so that's another reason why referees need to not be champions. Like a lot of our referees, God bless them, are 75 years old, and and they're still out there giving their time and their wisdom and experience. But at least being in the dojo, watching the rounds closely with your eyes, getting out there and walking through the kata and having judo, in your body and in your eyes, more than just when you show up at the tournament. And YouTube is great, and the IGF feeds and all that stuff is great, but there's just something that is substantively different about being there in person in the way that you're going to intake the information and be able to respond to that than through a screen.
Yeah, I agree totally. Being able to spontaneously comprehend where the competition is going, because you know the moves and you know the strategies, enhances the ability of the referee to anticipate when a call is going to be necessary, whether it's a good call about an ippon or a call about a infraction of the rule. Having that intricate knowledge of what the players are trying to accomplish and understanding where they're going in the competition allows the referee to discern what's happening almost intuitively, so that it's not a thought process, It's an understanding, an intuitive understanding of the activity. Which I think is
we
really
say mushin when we talk about techniques. We shouldn't have to think about each piece of the technique. It's exactly the same for refereeing, and it only comes from practice. But to bring it back to coaches too, if coaches are not out on the mat doing the refereeing, they may or may not understand the rules appropriately enough, understand what the referees are looking for in terms of intent. And so if referees see the intent to false attack, right, referees should be able to tell the difference between somebody who really went for a marote and just got blocked out versus somebody who, they really just there was no way they were going to throw this guy. The guy just stood there like, why is this guy falling on the ground? And that's nice and easy to say. But a coach will say, you didn't call it the first time, so why are you calling it the second time? Blah, blah, blah. But if the coach is out on in the referee's chair once in a while and sees that and starts to think, well, okay, I can see how, given the level of this competition, it might be appropriate to give this guy a freebie. I'm not going to call it this time, but the next time I'm going to call it. The coach sees this as an inconsistency, but that might have been what the coach would have decided had he been a referee. So like Rob was saying, having that, being in each other's places constantly, not necessarily at the same level, but being in each other's places really helps you understand where the other person is coming from, helps you support them for the overall growth of judo.
Yeah, I totally agree. Empathy throughout the judo community is very important. And playing several different roles, you begin to understand the complexities of each of these roles, but more importantly, how they are integrated actually in a Mushin way, so that people that do this intuitively understand what's taking place. Which brings me to my next query. When and why on earth would anyone want to study kata when shiai is so exciting?
That's a great question. And in the end, I guess I don't think I understand why I love it either, or why you should. But here's a couple reasons.
I might just say, why would anybody learn shiai when they can learn kata?
That's also
I know why, but
side, but that's well put.
Yeah, and she doubles down on her answer at this. So let me just start with this. As we were at the IJF Kata World Championships a couple of years ago, I think this was when it was in Olbia, and the IJF was there. The head of the Kata Commission was there, and a few other. I believe the president of the IJF was there at that time as well. I'm trying to remember. And we were having a clinic after the competition, and I remember that the IJF people unanimously said one thing. They looked at the kata players and they said, you are the teachers of judo for tomorrow. And that was the IJF's unambiguous message to the kata committee. They said, you are the teachers of judo. And I thought that was really interesting because, we've got shiai players and we've got referees and we've got coaches. And for them to look at the kata community and to express that role for that community in particular, I think it says a lot. So let's unpack that a little bit. Why would the IJF hold that opinion? Well, I think in the first place, it's obvious that if you've studied the kata and are able to perform it at a high level, you have a really good understanding of the technical performance of judo. And not just of your favorite tokuiwaza. You can bomb a huge, uchimata. You've got a great uchimata to kouchi combination. You have to learn, for example, in just the nage no kata, 15 throws, left-sided and right-sided, across the entire spectrum of, hand throws and hip throws, foot sweeps, and both kinds of sacrifice throws. And you have not just learned those things, but you've studied them intensely. And I think it leads to a really high-level understanding of not just those individual throws, but the concept of judo in general and the interrelationship between them. So technical proficiency is one. But not only that, you have an ability, the average kata player, I think, has a very high-level ability to articulate what is necessary for the correct performance of those throws. and to articulate the relationship between those different kinds of throws. For example, I'm using Nage no kata as an example, but we've got the Kodokan Go Shujutsu and Juno kata and the self-defense oriented katas as well. And I think all of those things make kata study and the performance of kata a solid foundation for anyone who is hoping to be a teacher of judo.
Well said.
Kata is, to me, kata is all about context. It sets up context for judo. In shiai and in randori, context is so complicated for the beginning judoka, and complicated all the way up till the higher levels of brown belt. Why is this the right throw? You know, why does it make sense to do Kochi after Sode Surikomi Gosh, right? Why do they set each other up so well? And the answers to all that are in the kata at a much more, I should say, like you can learn them at a much earlier time point. And then that carries directly over into shiai. If you've already learned it for shiai, you beat your head on against the wall for 20 years, and now you're finally really good at it. You kind of did yourself a disservice in that you could have had this formalized, easy to learn why this happens after this. It's great when your coach says, okay, well, this is a setup for that, but you don't intricately know why this is a good setup for that until you have to make this particular combination 100% correct, because that's what the test is on. That's what you're going to be judged on. And it's, you know, when you hear judoka say like, oh, well, I just only do these throws and I don't really know any of those other throws. I don't really need to know them because I only know these four. They've sort of pigeonholed themselves and they've capped out their potential at some point. So at a younger stage in their development, boy, wouldn't it have been great if you had experienced all of these, if you had experienced the why with the steps? Wouldn't that have just made you set up better for success as you started to get more elite into shiai?
So go ahead, Rob.
Yep, I was going to say there's a few other reasons I can think of why one would want to study the kata. Again, if we come back to the question, why do we do judo? And if judo is meant to be a method of self-improvement, it stands to reason that there's more than one benefit we can get out of doing judo. So for example, if I am a really great shiai player and I love the competition and I love the heat of battle and I love just getting out there and doing rounds on the mat, that's fantastic. So that is an area of judo that's playing naturally towards your strength. It's something that came natural to you. Maybe stepping back and studying something analytically, maybe stepping back and having to do something that's a little bit cold-blooded, having to do something that is forcing you to do the techniques that you don't like, and having to add in maybe some of the ritual and the formality and the manners. Maybe those are things that aren't natural to you. Well, in that case, kata is exactly what you need to continue your overall growth and development as a human being. It adds an entire supplementary aspect to your personal growth as a judoka that complements your strengths. And I would say likewise, kata players, even people who never intend to go and compete, even at US senior nationals, let alone the Olympics, they might find that it's really natural for them to engage in the cool and calm and analytical study of the kata. And yet shiai seems a little scary to them. And maybe it's a little bit outside of their comfort zone. And maybe they don't like the conflict and the defeat where you were definitively epponed by another person and you lost. And there's nothing that you can say against that. And experiencing that failure is difficult. I would say that kata players need to have that too in order to have the same development as a human being.
So Rob and I used to set aside this one kata that we never practiced. And it was like our stage fright training. So we would not get it really ready to go. And then we would use it to kind of get our nerves out. So we used kata to build our courage in a lot of ways that don't come out in shiai, because I'll tell you, I told my kids the other day about my very first judo match. I drove all the way down to Chihuahua, Mexico, 8-hour drive, across the border, went into Mexico, stepped on the mat. I got thrown in 4 seconds against a black belt.
Took that
And
more.
I don't even remember what happened. I remember he said, Hajime, I woke up on the floor. No idea what happened in between. You know, that a lot of that, and throughout your stage of development, yellow and orange, green belt, you're still nervous going out there. And kata is a way to teach yourself to handle those nerves, because it's meticulous, it's slow, all eyes are on you, and it helps you mentally engage in the process of a competition and get over that stage fright.
Yeah, if you have to give up and give a business presentation and you're not a public speaking, kata will help you do that for sure. There's just a lot of different skills that we need in life beyond judo. And this comes back to my primary thesis, is that the more different ways that you engage with judo, the more different ways that judo will help you be effective outside of judo.
Totally agree. So what would your recommendation be? At what Q rank, or when in the process of learning would you introduce kata?
As a 6-year-old white belt.
Thank you. I'm a senior citizen in the judo community, and I'll add this bit of information. I never realized that there was this distinction between kata, randori, and shiai. I grew up in the Washington Judo Club, and under Sensei Takamori, Draeger, and Ishikawa, all three of these elements of judo were judo. There was no, I'm going to do kata, I'm going to be a shiai guy, or I'm just going to stay on the mat and do randori. To be a complete, well-rounded judoka and to understand all the aspects of the intricacy of all the techniques and integrating them, you have to be capable in all areas of judo. And at the Kodokan, they had a special session every Saturday that Hayward Nishioka and I were privileged to attend. Special research students is what they called it. And that's all we did was kata. So for 5 to 6 days a week, you knocked yourself out in hard randori. And every month you had the kohaku shiai. But every Saturday, you spent the entire morning doing kata. So as I grew up in the sport, I was shocked as an adult later in life to find out that people differentiated kata, shiai, and randori.
Right.
And that kind of shocked me. So what Rob said really makes sense right from the beginning. Right.
And I think the IGF agrees with us on this, because they've just developed the Kodomo no Kata, which is an attempt to put together a kata curriculum for 6-year-old white belts all the way up through when the children become adult judo practitioners and can transition into the serious study of the formal kata, like Nagi no Kata. So I think the IGF is of the same mind on that as we are.
Yes, and I think just for the better development of your students, for keeping them in judo longer, for giving them small goals, it's not, there's no rules that this is a kata and this is not a kata. Some days we'll just start to link, you know, this is very simple, this is before the Kodomo no Kata came out, but we would just link falling drills and into a sequence of events, and that's a kata. It's so anybody can make a kata or make a predetermined activity list that they teach their students that gives them those fundamentals, and then they can. It makes the kids. It really empowers them because now they have something they can show. You can put them up on a stage and they can demonstrate. And a lot of other martial arts benefit from that. Judo really needs to too.
That's exactly right.
I see Dr. Ronald Allen Charles on this call. And Dr. Charles, do you remember that we were working on a Kodomo no Kata for the USJA about a year before the IGF came out with it? If we'd acted just a little bit faster, we could have put our flag down and we could have said we were first.
This is ours.
Yep.
It's interesting what you said about teaching early forms of kata, and it just doesn't have to be the formal kata. Years ago, Ben Campbell wrote a book on drill training in judo and putting together judo techniques in combination. And in essence, the fundamental idea was to do these drills as a form of kata and cooperate with your opponent. And that way you learn in a non-competitive way to integrate and execute all of the judo that you know in a relentless way and a relentless attack in a competition or in randori, or if you want to do a demonstration before an audience, you can show these drills in addition to kata, because then you can break them down and people can readily understand how many of these techniques are totally integrated into an integrated system of attack. Yeah, and it also has a carryover into self-defense and being, I'm going to say it this way, totally aware of your environment at all times. One of the things that horrifies me is when I see young people with earphones listening to radios running down the track or running down a path or going in the street with their headphones on and running block to block. They don't hear what's around them. They have no idea. So I think judo teaches you to be totally aware of your surroundings. And if you're doing road work, take your headphones off, be totally aware of what you're doing, enjoy the environment. Mm-hmm. But it's also a way of protecting yourself from an assailant, because in our world today, sadly, you have to be extremely careful. The other advice I would give is don't run solo, run with a partner.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And one other big benefit of kata that we haven't talked about is, I'll frame it this way. If shiai is versus, I'll put it in young people speak, there's versus judo and there's co-op judo. And especially today, kids, they strive for, a lot of kids strive for ways that they can work together to solve a problem. We're building that in the school systems. It's great. And Absolutely. Judo does that already. We already do that. So we can build that to kids. Listen, we got versus, we got co-op. This is great. And part of that co-op is that we get to learn self-defense. We get to do like some stretching. And listen, I'm going to PT school right now. So I really am getting very excited about, what we already do in judo that connects people, with being more healthy about their body at a young age before, at every age. And it's also great fall protection. This sounds strange, but how many people have you encountered that had they not known how to do a break fall would have had a serious, life debilitating injury come up? I know a lot of people had a life debilitating injury who, had they known judo, may have worked out differently. But Dr. Charles will tell you about a very good friend of ours, Don Ort. One day he's cleaning the gutters for his sister up in Rhode Island. He's up on a ladder. He's 71 years old. He falls off the ladder. This is end of life. This will change your entire life if you live through it, right? he does his break fall, he gets up like, oh my God, thank God for judo. And he didn't come to us, in good shape. He came to us wanting to better himself. He was already, he was the perfect candidate. So it's a great example of how judo is for everybody at every stage of life. Judo will help you out.
That's a very interesting observation. From my personal vantage point, I can't tell you the number of times I have fallen, stumbled, jumped down the steps upside down, hit the sidewalk, you name it, I've done it. And if it weren't for Ukemi, I would not be here in one piece today. And as an observation, teaching people who are in their 50s how to fall, forget the rest of judo. Just teaching senior citizens how to fall is a life-saving activity.
Absolutely.
Absolutely a life-saving activity. Because many senior citizens fall and break a hip or a shoulder, and then that cascades into other more difficult problems in their life. And it can also be instantaneously debilitating. So yeah, Ukemi has so much carryover into daily life. Falling over bicycles I've done, falling down steps, falling on sidewalks, tripping in the garden, you name it, I've fallen. And I really feel for many of my friends who have hurt themselves because they didn't avail themselves of learning how to do Ukemi. It's a very good point.
Yeah, and Sensei Jim, if we open this up again to the wider conversation of what we need for judo to thrive in the United States, really the answer is bodies and support, right? We need more people to know judo. And if we focus just exclusively on who's our next elite competitor or which kid in the club is going to be the next big thing in the local area, we miss out on bringing in that senior citizen. And not only do they get a life-saving skill, which is Ukemi, but that senior citizen is also going to be our dojo supporter. They're going to be there helping with the kids. They're going to be at the tournament, putting belts on people. They're going to sign up their grandkids. They're going to sign up their grandkids. And so we just need to look at our sport, which admittedly can be very intimidating and very difficult to get into in some ways, and look at how we can make it accessible and to meet the needs of a wide variety of audiences. And that's where we're going to see judo get back to having a critical threshold mass of people that's going to make it not only viable, but start to begin to grow exponentially again in the United States. Just teaching it to kids and looking for Olympic competitors is never going to get us to where we need to be. Lots of other things that we need to do. So not only is it positive good that judo does for each individual person who comes into it, but also for the growth and the sustaining energy of the sport and the community as a whole, we need everybody.
I totally agree. What would you say to an individual in a more rural or local area as an entrepreneur on how to start and maintain a judo club and do exactly what Rob said, expand the appeal of judo to all ages and to demonstrate the carryover values. This is one of the things that I believe we don't market enough. And I know this gets a little esoteric, but what you said about kata calming you is extremely important, because in certain circumstances in your life, you are asked to extemporaneously do things that will scare the living bejesus out of you. And being able to compose yourself almost instantly and go into that Mushin Nike idea of just do it is something that judo has given to me and many other practitioners. I'll give you one little anecdote. I was not supposed to make a presentation before Congressman Yates at a budget hearing on Capitol Hill. And suddenly he asked if Jim Bregman was in the room and would he come to the front. I have some questions for Mr. Bregman. I was told I wouldn't participate. I sat in the back of the room, not believing I would ever be in front of a congressional committee. I stood up, scared, because there's a big audience, and these are congressmen and women. And all of a sudden, judo kicked in, and I said, okay, this happened instantaneously, of course, but I said, okay, go for it. I just walked up there, sat down, and answered all the questions. But my initial reaction was, okay, this is the end of my life. This is career threatening. I've never done this before, and boy, am I scared. But all of a sudden, when you step on the mat, it all kicks in. And that has a tremendous benefit to self-defense, because if you're in the street and you're aware of your surroundings and something begins, it all kicks in. And that's what judo as a life experience teaches you, in my opinion. So I'm sorry to digress, but that's what I see as a benefit to judo, are all these carryover values. So what would you recommend to the entrepreneur in a local area?
That, first of all, that's a wonderful anecdote. I love that. Do you mind if I steal it?
Share that. Yeah.
Do you mind if I share it?
Share it, please. Yeah, I was really scared, but after that, the chairman and the committee members and staff and I became very well coordinated and close and interacted over many years. So, but that's one experience.
Yeah, I Sensei Bregman, what my advice would be, and it's a phrase that you've already mentioned, which is just do it, right? I think there's hundreds of reasons not to do things, and there's lots of excuses, and so not only to somebody who might be interested in getting their foot in the water of running a club or starting a business, but I would say more broadly to every person out there who loves judo, we need you. We need more clubs. We need more teachers. And if you love this activity as I do, and as I think Lisa does, and we all do on this call, I think it's incumbent upon you to say, okay, how can I share and contribute to the success of this activity, which among human endeavors and cultural artifacts, I think is, if not unique, I would say highly positive to the success of its practitioners and the human race in general. And maybe I'm speaking too broadly here, but I believe from the bottom of my heart that there's nothing out there like judo spirit. This is a phrase we hear sometimes. It's baked into the competition rule set. It's baked into the training methodologies. There's a moral and ethical philosophy and a system of self-development that is not present in soccer. It is not present in football. It is not present in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, which we have in my gym and I love, and it's great for kids in lots of ways, but it's not there. And so I think we need everybody out there who's brown belt or above. If you've been in it this long, then we need you in the long term. Step up, start a local club, teach at your local club, start a local business, go in with a couple of friends and rent some space from the local BJJ gym and put judo out there in front of other martial arts practitioners and moms and dads and families. When judo is common out there as, that karate sign in every local small town, no matter how small, that's when we're really going to be viable as a community, as a competitive force on the global stage. But that's also when we'll have accomplished Professor Kano's vision of getting this moral and ethical system of self-improvement in front of as many people as possible. So just do it is the first piece of advice I would give you. Whether you've intended to do it or not, you should consider doing so. Now, the steps to get involved with that, there's lots of things that you can do. And Lisa, do you want to talk about that, or do you want me to
Sure.
keep going?
No, let me start it off. So when do you start? If you, I have a yellow belt in my club who's like, I want to teach judo, Lisa. I mean, like, okay, well, how much judo do you know? That's on me. But you can tell he's already in. He's already like swallowed the hook. And so when do you start your trail to running a dojo? Started as a white belt. You started by, okay, well, my elbow hurts today. Hey, coach, do you mind if I like maybe pull out, do you have a scoreboard? I can pull out the scoreboard and we could run some matches and I could get used to doing the scoreboard. Now you're a green belt. Hey, coach, do you mind if I just hurt my ankle? I got to take one class out. You mind if I like practice doing a little randori or start refereeing some of our matches? Yes, absolutely. This is a great idea. Start teaching as early as possible. We were so blessed to have Dr. Charles because he got us in front of coaching courses and learning how to teach early on. And I think you can kind of tell with a person whether they enjoy that or not. And if you have somebody that enjoys that, don't hold them back, push them forward. And if you do enjoy that, tell your mentor that you do, because they'll set up opportunities for you. So that's sort of the before you're a brown belt. Now you're a brown belt.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, and even so, like the path to getting involved in all aspects of judo, like, right? So the first step to getting somebody to being a referee is getting them to be a table worker and scoreboard keeper on the side of the mat when their division's done fighting, because now they're involved in the process of a judo match occurring and they realize it doesn't just happen by itself, right? And they start to get that. For a person to open a club or to open judo as a small business, there's lots of little things that have to happen along the way. They need to be given the opportunity to teach, and maybe I'm an orange belt and you let them start teaching the to the first day white belts from the very beginning. They could run the warm-ups and you start to teach them how to do that, right? Little kids, we can get them involved in this process. And then we just encourage them each step through the way, right? So if you want to run a club someday, you need to know how to teach, and you can learn that in your dojo right now, tomorrow, whatever your rank is. Other things is to ask lots of questions. Okay, there is a network of support. There's people out there who have done it, and they will teach you how to do it for free. I guarantee. You do not need to pay money for one of these big martial arts run your own gym courses. You can, it's out there. And if that suits your lifestyle, do it. But pick up the phone, call the USJA national office or the USJF national office or USA Judo or 5 local dojo owners in the area. And I guarantee one of them will give you information on somebody that can give you advice about how to start a club, how to charter, things to look at, what certifications you need. People want you to be successful and they'll help you do it.
Absolutely. So if you get to the brown belt stage, right, and you still are, you're interested and you'd really love to have a club someday. This is something that we're working on in our area. Once we get a couple of brown belts ready, we have a huge motivation to have judo in schools right now. And a great way to sort of set yourself up for future dojo ownership success is to run a local short-term judo program somewhere. Go to your local rec club and say, hey, do you think we could do like a 2-month judo program? They pay one thing, blah, blah, blah. The rec center is going to promote it for you. All you do is just got to show up, give them your credentials. A lot of places have encouraged us to do it. And those are things that we hand off to our brown belts because it's great experience. And you kind of get a little bit of ownership by yourself. And you get to put judo out there to other people. You build the loyalty with moms, and it might just be a short-term thing, but that's okay. They can go on to another club if they really like it or whatnot. That's great. Now you get out to Shodan, and there was a gentleman. I can't remember his last name. His first name was George. And he put out on Facebook the other day, if you're a Shodan, do you have a club? And if not, why not? And I thought, wow, that's such an amazing concept. You might be a Shodan and you're still training under somebody, and that's great. But that doesn't stop you from opening a chapter of your club in another area closer, maybe to your house, 2 or 3 days a week at a rec center. You don't have to pay a lot of money for a venue. A lot of like the community rec centers are interested. Almost every place that has fitness classes or a boxing club or something like that, you tell them, hey, I'd love to teach a judo program 1 or 2 nights a week. They're gonna welcome you in with open arms. This happens around us all the time. It's actually how we ended up owning this school. Somebody said, hey, I would love it if you would teach a jiu-jitsu program. We said, no, but we'll teach a judo program. And 2 years later, we bought the gym from them, So it's that those things happen. You just start in someplace and kind of work your way up. And if you ever have questions about that, or you feel like you're getting taken for a ride, hey, that's when you need to call your mentors.
There's so many, it's so easy to get started. It really is. When we moved to South Carolina, I was practicing under Dr. Ronald Allen Charles over in the Navy base. He had a wonderful club there that was free for military personnel and vets. And we were helping instruct there. And I also ran my own little karate program across the base out of the rec center. And I think I got $15 per kid per month, which was not a lot, but it was his experience, right? Money doesn't have to be a part of it if this is what you love and you think that judo is a positive good. There's a lot of interest in judo right now in the larger martial arts community. I think more than there has been in the past 15 years. BJJ is huge, and BJJ guys have got to the point where they're looking for the next competitive advantage. And right now they're looking at judo as being that thing to incorporate the takedown game. Any Shodan in this country could walk into a local BJJ club and say, I'm going to teach a 45-minute judo takedowns class as a supplement once per week in your gym. Would you like to have me? No one will say no. No one will say no, maybe one or two. And that gets judo out there in front of these guys. They start cross-training. It gives you the experience that you need to move on to run something more independently down the line.
Very well said. And that's happening here in Leesburg with BJJ clubs having judo instructors come in once, twice a week, because they're really interested in standing work. How do you do it? Teach us. We don't know. And that's a good entree, if you will. One of the major challenges of American judo now, and it's now more important than ever, is outreach, retention of students, and recruiting of students, and their associated families and friends, and seniors and kids. Our judo community over the last 20 years has shrunk. And that's a sad statement. It comes down to a number of issues, which we don't have time to go into right now. But the fundamental idea of outreach that you two have so eloquently articulated, and the carryover benefits are so dramatically visible, that to get our brown belts and black belts out teaching in the community will exponentiate the enrollments in all the organizations. This doesn't have to be a zero-sum game among the 3 organizations. We're all pathetically low in membership. That's an understatement.
True.
Now, anything we can do to synergistically get people on the mat and advance the sport from a pure numbers point of view will enhance a lot of individuals' lives, and it will also ultimately over time enhance the international standing of our judoka, because out of a large pool of practitioners you can create international competitors of a more superior quality, if you will. France has almost 700,000 registered judoka. We are, all 3 organizations, struggling at maintaining 20,000. So think about that for a nanosecond. What are we going to do? Back in the day, there were 50,000 to 100,000 practitioners of judo throughout the United States. So we have a lot of work to do together.
If I may,
Sure.
a additional one way that we've been battling that here is it's kind of thinking out of the box. You know, we've thought about with the COVID environment, with the economy, what do our families need? What they need childcare. They need affordable places that are safe where they can send their kids. Okay. So we took our judo instructor and we told them, guess what? You're going to learn how to be an after school counselor. And all of a sudden, we had all these kids that are learning basic judo, and they're learning a lot of other things, and they're doing crafts and all that stuff. But the families are coming into our dojo 5 days a week. So they come in to pick up the kids. The kids see judo class going on. They see all this excitement here. And how many of them? Parents say, that looks cool. How do I get started? Well, we're going to make that super cheap because you're already coming in for after school. Wouldn't that be nice? And we've gotten, I mean, probably, yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh, maybe half of our after school kids sign up for judo. And maybe they stick with it, maybe they don't, but they're always going to talk about it. They talk about it with their friends. And then that just magnifies. And so sometimes the answer to building judo isn't judo itself. It's addressing a need in your community, and then using judo as a portion of that. Let people get excited about it. Let judo sell itself, and then opening it up to, you know, once you get the excitement and the knowledge, because it's very difficult to tell parents, hey, sign your kid up for judo. I don't know what judo is. Why am I going to pick that? I know what karate is because I watch Karate Kid, right. You know, that sort of thing. Come sign your kid up for something they need. You already know they need it. And then we'll have judo as part of that.
Lisa, you used an acronym for certification to be able to teach an after school program.
Oh, this is a great question. It depends state to state.
Okay. In
our state, and I'll tell you, for the most part, it's very low. It's very, very low. And a great way to make sure that you meet the qualifications is to, if you have somebody in your judo school who is already a teacher or a substitute teacher.
There you go. Right. In Leesburg, where I live, all of the karate dojos have after school programs, and they pick the children up in vans after school and take them to the local library. They go into the teen or children's sections, they complete all of their homework, and the teachers of the martial arts help them if they need help with their homework. They then get on the vans and go to the dojo. They practice whatever the art is that they're practicing. And then the parents, both of whom are probably working very long hours, come to the dojo after school. It's not just after school at 3 o'clock, it's right. After work at 6 or 7.
Yes.
And they know that these instructors are going to care for their kids and protect them and treat them with respect and dignity, and they will be safe. They get the homework done, they get a martial art, and when the parents and the children go home, they get family time together because the parents don't have to work the homework assignments or be there for the kids.
Right.
Right. So it has a lot of benefit. And I love the concept of an after school program for dojos throughout the United States.
If I'll say this to folks who are already maybe retired or established, and they're thinking there's no way that I'm going to be running an after school. That's for true. Right. But giving a young entrepreneurial judoka, the helping them with capital to get an after school bus. We bought our after school bus for $6,000. It was It's a piece of junk, but that's okay. Does the thing.
It's to go a 1.5 mile round trip.
Yep.
Which
I
it
mean,
does
it only
well.
has to go to the local school. It doesn't have to go far, right? It's safe and it's big. It doesn't require, if it's under 16 passengers, it doesn't require any special license. And giving them that guidance and help with capital. I hear people like, well, I donate $5,000 to USA Judo. Where does it go? Yeah, I don't know either. But if you donate,
Not against any organization
against
in
anybody.
particular, just
I
general
understand.
donations can be.
right.
Yeah.
If you can donate, if you're interested in donating to judo, sometimes in addition to thinking about the organizations, it's nice if you have somebody. I know of folks who are at that age, and we're trying to give them, we're trying to get them set up to be entrepreneurial, start their own programs, and we're starting them with them. And we're running it with them. But the goal is always to take the judoka and set them up for success so they can run it independently. They need to be learning too. And it can be difficult to find that judoka. But they're of those 20,000 that are out there, there's quite a few. And if we focus on them and we give them what they need in order to grow judo, that's one way that we can do it, even if we're not interested personally in watching a bunch of 6-year-olds.
Exactly. Very well said. We're coming to the end of our program. So I thought I'd open it up to the audience and see if they had any additional questions they'd like to put forth. Do we have any? You can type them in the chat area if you like, or unmute yourself. Well, we don't seem to have any more questions, so perhaps we covered it. I want to thank you really both very much for your contributions to judo and your comprehensive approach to teaching judo to all ages and to recruiting and retaining people. And with that, I want to tell you that Ronald Charles just said it was a marvelous presentation. Thank you very much. And I will reiterate that sentiment and thank you profusely for all you do and this presentation. Very informative, very well done. Enjoy.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's been a pleasure. And if there's anyone out there that wants help getting started in some other aspect of judo that we've talked today, and you don't have someone in your local area that you feel can help you with that, feel free to reach out to Lisa or I, and we will be more than happy to either help you with that or point you in the direction of someone in your area or nationally who can serve as a mentor for you in that.
Thank you, Rob, for that. I would encourage anyone listening to this program to take advantage of that offer. And with that, we will conclude. Thank you both very, very much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Sensei.
Take care.
Bye-bye.